Hello everyone. Today we discuss about the central nervous system. The central nervous system consists of the brain and spinal cord. It controls things like thought, movement, and emotion, as well as breathing, heart rate, hormones, and body temperature. CN is referred to as central because it combines information from the entire body and coordinates across the whole organism. This article briefly overviews the CNS. It looks at the types of cells involved, different regions within the brain, spinal circuitry, and how the CNS can be affected by disease and injury. Fast facts on the central nervous systems. The CNS consists of the brain and spinal cord. The brain is the most complex organ in the body and uses 20% of the total oxygen we breathe. The brain consists of an estimated 100 billion neurons connected to thousands more. The brain can be divided into four main lobes: temporal, parietal, occipital, and frontal. The CNS consists of the brain and spinal cord. The brain is protected by the skull, the cranial cavity, and the spinal cord travels from the back of the brain down the center of the spine, stopping in the lumbar region of the lower back. The brain and spinal cord are housed within a protected triple layer membrane called the meninges. The central nervous system has been thoroughly studied by anatomists and physiologists, but it still holds many secrets. It controls our thoughts, movements, emotions, and desires. It also controls our breathing, heart rate, the release of some hormones, body temperature, and much more. The retina, optic nerve, olfactory nerves, and olfactory epithelium are sometimes considered to be part of the CNS alongside the brain and spinal cord. This is because they connect directly with brain tissue without intermediate nerve fibers. And again, the brain. The brain is the most complex organ in the body. The cerebral cortex, the outermost part of the brain, and the largest part by volume. This is cerebral cortex. Contains an estimated 15 to 33 billion neurons, each of which is connected of thousand of the other neurons. In total, around 100 billion neurons and 1000 billion glial cells make up human brain. Our brain uses around 20% of our body total energy. The brain is the central control module of the body and coordinates activity from physical motion to the secretion of hormones, the creation of memories, and the sensation of emotion. To carry out these functions, some section of the brain have dedicated roles. However, many higher functions, reasoning, problem solving, creativity, involve different areas working together in networks. The brain is roughly split into four lobes. Temporal lobe. Temporal lobe important from processing sensory input and assigning it emotional meaning. It is also involving laying down long-term memories. Some aspect of language perception are also housed here. Occipital lobe, purple, visual processing region of the brain housing the visual cortex. Parietal lobe. The parietal lobe integrates sensory information including touch, spatial awareness, and navigation. Touch simulation from the skin is ultimately sent to the parietal lobe. It also plays a part in language processing. Frontal lobe position in the front of the brain, and frontal lobe contains the majority of dopamine sensitive neurons and involved in attention, reward, short term memory, motivation, and planning. uh, Next, brain regions. Basal ganglia. Basal ganglia involved in the control of voluntary motor movements, procedural learning, and decision about which motor activities to carry out. Diseases that affect this area include Parkinson disease and Huntington's disease. Cerebellum mostly involved in precise motor control. Cerebellum, but also language and attention. If the cerebellum is damaged, the primary symptom is disrupt motor control known as ataxia. Brachys area, the small area of the left side of the brain. sometimes on the right in left-handed individuals. Is important in language processing when damaged an individual finds it difficult to speak but can still understand speech. Stuttering is sometimes associated with an underactive Broca's area. Corpus callosum, a broad band of nerve fibers that join the left and right hemispheres. It is the largest white matter structure in the brain and allows the two hemispheres to communicate. Medulla oblongata, extending below the skull. It is involved in involuntary functions such as omitting, breathing, sneezing, and maintaining the correct blood pressure. Hypothalamus, sitting just above the brain stem and roughly the size of an almond. The hypothalamus secretes a number of neurohormones and influences body temperature control, thirst, and hunger. Thalamus, position in the center of the brain. The thalamus receives sensory and motor input and relays it to the rest of the cerebral cortex. It is involved in the regulation of consciousness, sleep, awareness, and alertness. Amygdala, two almond shaped nuclei deep within the temporal lobe. They are involved in decision making, memory, and emotional responses, particularly negative emotions. Spinal cord, the spinal cord running almost the full length of back carries information between the brain and body, but also carries out other tasks from the brainstem where the spinal cord meets the brain. 31 spinal nerves enter the cord. Along its length, it connects with the nerves and peripheral nervous system that run in from the skin, muscles, and joints. Motor commands from the brain travel from the spine to the muscles, and sensory information travel from the sensory tissues such as the skin toward the spinal cord and finally up to the brain. The spinal cord contains circuits that control certain reflexive responses, such as the involuntary movement your arm might make your finger was to touch a flame. The circuits within the spine can also generate more complex movements such as walking. Even without input from the brain, the spinal nerves can coordinate all the muscles necessary to walk. For instance, if the brain of a cat is separated from its spine so that its brain has no contact with its body, it will start spontaneously walking when placed on treadmill. The brain is only required to stop and start process or make changes. For instance, an object appear in your path. In your path. Okay, thank you.